With our countermeasure selected, we can now move towards implementation. In this module, we'll cover step 2 and 3. All right. So the first thing that we need to do in implementing our countermeasure is to think through what are all the actions that we have to take. Who needs to be responsible for it, and what are the dates? This is basic project management. It is not complex, but it is not easy. And, this is where that persistence that I was sharing with you earlier is really going to come into play. And just having the habits to make sure that you're making progress on that list of actions. So clear accountabilities, making sure that people are really accepting those accountabilities. At this point, we've done a ton of work in the C phase, in the solve phase, and giving people their opportunity to voice what they want to do. And so we should have a really strong cohesion with the team and a feel that, hey, we're in this together. We're all going to push this through. And you shouldn't have a hard time getting people to be accountable and really committed to that plan. But they need to see the plan. The plan needs to be on paper. It needs to be clear who owns what, and there needs to be clear dates. And then a cadence of review has to be part of this as well. I like short reviews, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, once a week, twice a week, whatever is needed. We ran recently a transition of one manufacturing facility into another manufacturing facility. We had weekly check-ins with probably 30 people, and we knocked them out in 15 minutes each time, probably for a few months, right? And so it was really tight, well-structured. You can use collaborative tools to have people go in and make their updates prior to the session, so that we only discuss the things that are falling behind. There's a lot of ways to really make these go fast, but you gotta do them, because this is that persistence piece. And it's, a solution not implemented is no better than no solution at all. Okay. So Joe does his brainstorm, comes up with, we need to develop a route, a route criteria, so that we can go look for route options on a map. And then I'm going to need to kind of think through what options I want to test. I'm going to actually go test those options. And then based on all of that, I'm going to commit to a new route, whichever one is best. And so he's got himself as the owner in your projects. More than likely, that's going to be more than just you owning those solutions. Again, that's why making sure everybody's on board and in agreement that this is what we want to do is critical. And then he's got the due dates, and he's checking how complete it is. So you can imagine once a week going in, this is 50% complete. This is 80% complete. This is going to be due tomorrow, and it's only 20% complete. Let's go figure out what's going on there and try and resolve that. All right. So basic project management, but absolutely crucial to execution of your project. So once we have that project management plan, we'll put that into our A3. And you can imagine, this A3 report is a living document. You're going to be updating this thing all along the way, and those project management tasks you're going to need to update on a very regular basis. And so you should potentially be producing an update to this report on a regular basis. If it's digital, it should be housed somewhere that people can see digitally. If you're more of a operation where people need to see things live, you should be printing it out once a week and putting it up where people can take a look at it. Okay. So then step 3 of solve is verify the process. So no improvements complete until we've verified, until we've sustained the improvement. And we'll talk about sustain in a little bit. So to verify the process, we're going to have to go collect some more data. And we're going to need to think about, in that data collection plan, what are we really collecting? What are we interested in terms of time? Is it when Joe's foot steps outside of his house, and then when he is standing in the daily stand-up meeting? Or is it when he pulls the car out of the driveway and just when he steps into the front door of the building? Like those little things need to be decided, especially if you're not the one collecting the data. So we have to think about that. Who's collecting the data? What are we specifically collecting? And then how is it going to be gathered? Is this a stopwatch? Do we have to measure something? Is this something we have to pull out of one of our systems? And we may need some extra help to do those things. And then how long do we need to collect data for to really prove to ourselves that we've made a difference, right? Is it just a week and we'll be sure, or is it going to take a month? And there's a lot of additional complexity in there. This is yet another spot where you have a coach, you have a mentor, and your CI Mastermind facilitator. That person can help you think through the data collection side of this, because certainly as a white belt, this may be very new to you. And then we're going to think about how we display it. Is this a trend chart? Are we just going to plot two bars against each other? And then, again, over what time are we going to look at this? Don't overreact. If you start collecting data on Thursday and you had just implemented the change on Tuesday, you may not expect or should not necessarily expect to see a change that immediate. So don't overreact. We want to collect a little data for a while to determine if our impact had the results that we expected. And sometimes it'll happen that we didn't close the gap as much as we thought. Maybe we didn't hit the goal, okay? Frankly, that's all right, especially utilizing this S3 problem-solving method and A3 reports. The intention is for these things to be somewhat iterative. We just want to make some forward progress every time. We don't necessarily have to solve the whole problem on the onset. Remember, we have a 15-minute gap, and addressing the drive time only gets us 8 minutes. So there's still a whole chunk of stuff that we may have to go do if we really want to get rid of the whole 15-minute gap. So if we're not getting to where we thought we would, we need to make sure were all the changes truly implemented. Sometimes people say things are implemented and they're kind of done. Like trained is a classic one. Oh, was this person trained? Yep, they were trained. What does that really mean? Did we check to make sure they really know how to do the new job or not? And so you're going to want to check to make sure those actions are truly done. Additionally, you may need to go back and understand, were we off on a root cause? Were we wrong about how impactful this root issue is? Again, that's why when we got to the end of C, I mentioned make sure that you get some other perspectives on what you've done, just in case maybe you missed something, right? And so we want to think through all those things. Ultimately, though, so long as we've seen some kind of gain, even if we're not hitting the goal, we should move on to sustain, because we can always go back to the other countermeasures that we didn't select. And there may be other countermeasures that were maybe not quite optimal, but were pretty good, that we should go back and implement, okay? Again, this iterative approach is a key component of our S3 and A3 problem-solving method. So here's Joe's results. He started collecting data July 10th through July 18th. Remember, he was at 1 hour and 15 minutes, so that's 75 minutes, and he's now cut it down to 65 minutes. So for the most part, he's cut it by 10 minutes or more. So he's done a really excellent job with his solution. You can see he's graphed two things. He's graphed his actual results, so the orange bars, right, against the standard, all right, which we can see we're not back down to the standard of 60 minutes. We weren't expecting to, so that's okay. And then he also did the current actual values, the orange bars, against the goal, right? Here we're doing better than what we expected. So nice work, Joe. Your solution worked as you had hoped, all right? So now we'll enter that into the A3, and now we're really close to being done, but we're not done, like I said, until we've sustained that we know we can maintain this process, okay? So we'll come back and finish this off.